Hi everyone and welcome back. Okay, in this tutorial we're going to code up the dice roll. What we're going to do is write the HTML first, so we will create a button on the web page. We'll also create a div. The div will actually contain the result of the dice roll. Then we'll write our JavaScript logic and then we'll go on and do the CSS. So first thing we need to do is in our index.html page, let's make a button. So I'm going to say button. And I'm going to say roll the dice. So just save. Just want to have a look at the browser. And we have roll the dice. That's awesome. Above it, I want to make a div. And this div is actually going to contain the result. So I'm going to give it an ID. We'll say ID is equal to dice container. The button, I also want to give that an ID. And the ID will just be of button. That's awesome. Now we want to write up our JavaScript code. So this project is about the dice roll. Let's just create some space here. So what I want to do is I want to say let button be equal to document.get element by ID and just pass in the ID of button. So that gets us a reference to this button here. Just to make sure we've gotten the button, I'm just going to quickly say console.log button, and then hopefully we see a button in the console. Okay, that's awesome. But we don't want to log the button out to the console. What we actually want to do is we want to run some code when the user clicks on the button. So rather than logging out the button, what we're going to do is we're going to add an event listener to it. So we're going to say button dot add event listener, and when the user clicks on this button, so we're going to listen out for a click event, we're going to run some code. So we have our parentheses, our little arrow and chevron to make an arrow function. And now what we're going to do is when the user clicks on the button, we're just going to log out clicked. The reason I'm doing this step by step is just so it's easier than writing out all the code, and if it doesn't work, we're trying to troubleshoot and find out where we went wrong. So we've added the button. We've used the document object model to grab it, okay? Because remember, the button has an ID. Button has an ID of button. So we said document.getElementById by ID button. We stored it in the button variable. On button, we've added an event listener. When the user clicks the button, we're going to run some code, okay? In this case, we're just going to run button clicked. Clicked, that's awesome. But now we want to take it a step further. We don't want to log out clicked to the console. What we want to do is we actually want to generate a random number. So we'll say let result be equal to, and what we can do is we can just say mat.random, parentheses, because we're calling or invoking a method, and then what we'll do is we'll log out the result of that to the console. So now when the user clicks on the button, we're going to generate a random number using the inbuilt mat object in JavaScript and calling the .random method on it. Well, you say dot to access the method. It's not called .random, it's called random, but you know what I mean. So if we click here now, we get a random number. So that's really good, but we're not getting a number between 1 and 6. So really what we want to do is we want to take mat.random and multiply that by 6. So let's do that. So now if we do that, if we save and refresh, we're getting a little bit closer. We're getting these random numbers, but the problem is there's like a decimal place. So we want to get rid of that. Let's throw away everything after the decimal place by wrapping mat.random times 6 around or into mat.floor. So what we're doing here is mat.floor is basically being passed in this value. We're passing in mat.random, a random number between 0 and 0.999 continuous times 6. We're passing it into mat.floor, and what this will do is give us a number between 0 and 5. Remember, when you use the .floor method, it throws away everything after the decimal place. So for example, 4.25 would now be 4, or 3.2 would be 3, okay? So now we're getting a number between 0 and 5. So if I save and refresh, and now I click on the roll the dice, we get 4, 3, 2, 0, 1, any 5s? Weird. There we go. Geez, that took quite a few rolls. Okay. Now, we don't want a number between 0 and 5, do we? We want a number between 1 and 6. So at the end here, after the closing parentheses, just add 1. And now what we're going to do is we're going to get a number between 1 and 6. Okay? So let's now save and refresh once again. And now we're getting 5, 6, 3. Keep rolling till we get a 1. There we go. Awesome. Okay. So we're getting there. We now have a button when the user clicks on it, we're getting a dice roll. But instead of logging that out to the console, what we want to do is we want to put the number inside of the div, the div with the ID of dice container. So let's grab the dice container from the document object model. So we can say let dice container be equal to document.get element by ID, and let's pass in our ID, and we called it dice container. So if I just copy that over and paste in there, we now have got the dice container. But what we want to do is let's actually get the dice container, and what we want to do is we want to set the inner HTML, the inner text, I apologize, change the inner text to be whatever the result was. So previously we were logging the result out to the console. Now we're not doing that. We're taking whatever number we get, a number between 1 and 6, and we're taking the dice container and we're accessing the inner text, and we are changing that, the value, and assigning it the value of result. So what we're doing here is we are assigning the result of the dice roll and basically putting that into the inner text, setting the inner text of the div. Okay, so now if I say refresh, we're going to get our dice. We get 6, 3, 1. Awesome. Okay, so it doesn't look very impressive, so let's very quickly just add some CSS styling to it. So for the dice container, what we can do is just apply some basic styling. So that was an ID, wasn't it? Yeah, okay. So what we'll do is we'll just say hashtag, and let's just give this a width of 200 pixels, a height of 200 pixels, and I want to give it a border of 2 pixels, solid black. I'm going to stop there and just have a look, see how this looks. Okay, so we have our border, that's good. Let's give it a bit of a border radius. I think that would look nice. So we'll just say border radius. We'll say 15%. Let me just save and refresh. Okay, that looks way better. It kind of looks like a dice now. Okay, the text was very small, so why don't we give the font size, let's do 150 pixels, and let's have a look to see how that looks. So if I refresh, so we get, okay, it's looking better. I'd like to center that a bit more. So why don't we just give a decent amount of padding here. So let's just say padding of, we'll be bold, we'll give a full 50 pixels. So now if we refresh, 1, 6, okay, it's maybe too much padding. I don't know, let's just do 25. Good enough. Okay. Then what we want to do is just maybe align the text. So let's say text align center. So let's say text align center. Let's have a look here now. We're getting closer every time. Okay, that's awesome. I'm happy with that. The button though needs a bit of love, and then we'll end the tutorial. So the button has an ID of button. So we'll say hashtag button. And what do we want to do with the button? Well, let's just give it a width. And we'll give it a width of maybe 50 pixels. We'll give it a height. Tell you what, no, we'll give it a width of like maybe, we'll be really bold. We'll do 200 pixels and a height of maybe 50 pixels. Let's see how that looks. Probably gonna look horrendous. Doesn't look too bad. Okay. What else can we do? We'll give it a tiny bit of border radius. I love attention to detail. So border radius, we'll say 5%. Let's just have a look. You can barely see it. Okay. And then what we'll do is maybe we will give the background color a nice pink. So we'll say background color. You know what? We'll just do aqua. we don't really have a lot of time for styling. This is a JavaScript course. Okay, doesn't look too bad. I actually like that. And then lastly, let's just maybe bold the font weight. So we'll say font weight is maybe bold. And I'm not sure if a white color will suit the text, but let's just do it. We'll say white. And you could do a text transform uppercase if you wanted to make it uppercase. So let's have a look here now. Ooh, you can barely see the text. Also, maybe a bit of margin. We'll just quickly move that away from everything. Just do 20 pixels, see how that looks. You know what? Oh God, I'm going to get into styling issues here. What do I want? Aqua was good. I don't know, let's have a look at pink. Maybe it's softer on the eye. Okay, that's all right. So basically, we have our dice roll, and if you click, we roll the dice. Okay, awesome. Should I leave that tutorial there, or am I gonna stress over? Let's do aquamarine. All right, I'm about to end the tutorial. Give me 1 second. Oh. You know what? Let's just make that black and have a look. Promise I'll end the tutorial here. Oh, that's much better. Awesome. All right, I'm happy now. Okay, so guys, that's how we can do a dice roll in JavaScript. When the user clicks on the dice, what we do is we just get a random number between 1 and 6, and we have it in the dice here. What we could do in the next tutorial is we could create another dice, and the user can click the dice, and then the user can roll the dice. Sorry, I said click a dice. The user will roll a dice, the computer will roll a dice, and then we can check to see who won by doing some sort of comparison. So we'll do that in the next tutorial. The key point for this tutorial is that what we did was essentially we just on the button added an event listener. We generate a random number between 1 and 6. What we do is we take our div and just set the inner text of that. And that was really all the JavaScript. It was quite limited. Really, we spent more time on the styling. But you can see here that we've built a very basic project. So in the next tutorial, we'll write some functionalities so that the computer has to pick a random number and then roll the dice, and then we'll do a comparison to see who won. Okay, awesome. Thank you for your attention. I'll see you in the next tutorial.